Superman is the all-American, larger-than-life, perfect hero of hope and virtue. But what is most impressive about him is that he's able to continue being a symbol of hope despite all the terrible things that have happened to him. Now, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst thing to ever happen to Superman was Krypton exploding, as he lost not only his entire family, but his entire civilization, their culture and technology. He literally lost everything he could lose without dying. I mean, seriously, what else could he have lost other than his life and health? But this video isn't going to focus on that, as it's so obvious that it's the worst that we're not going to count it. Instead, we'll be going over the 5 other worst things that have ever happened to Superman. Justice League Dark, Darkseid War. In this violently twisted film, Superman leads the heroes of Earth in a preemptive strike against Apokolips, in order to stop Darkseid before he attacks Earth again, which he's obviously going to do. Now, the other heroes are on the fence about this, but Superman is adamant, and so the attack goes forth. Now, of course, Darkseid knew they were coming and is ready for them, and kills a lot of the heroes, but captures even more, using machines to repair their injuries, and of course to brainwash them into becoming Darkseid's loyal soldiers. But in Superman's case, Darkseid wants him to really suffer, so he tortures him for a while, and then injects him with liquid kryptonite, which removes Superman's powers, and of course the kryptonite is slowly killing him as well, and keeping him in constant pain. And on top of that, he has to watch as his world is destroyed and stripped of every natural resource, including the very magma in our planet's Earth core, and to watch his friends be turned into mind-washed slaves that Darkseid forces to commit horrific acts. And all the while, Superman knows that it's his fault, as he was the one who pushed for the attack. No one else really wanted it, they were just convinced by Superman. And of course, being transformed from a god to a mere mortal, and watching all of your loved ones suffer every single day, makes this one of the worst years of Superman's life. Of course, the heroes do eventually rally and attack Darkseid, at which point Superman is possessed by the demon Trigon, who burns the kryptonite out of his body, giving him his powers back, but also turning him into his slave. But even after Trigon is forced from his body and Darkseid is defeated, it doesn't really matter. The heroes are either dead or turned into monsters. Half the population of Earth, over 3 billion people, are dead, and the Earth itself is a hollowed out husk on the brink of collapse. In many respects, this is actually the very worst thing that Darkseid ever did to Superman, as he took everything he could from him and really dragged it out while he did it. But it's not the only bad thing he ever did to him. Darkseid brainwashes Superman into thinking that he's his son. Now, giving Superman a loving father isn't the worst thing in the world, unless that father is actually an evil dictator who makes Superman into a weapon that he can use to conquer planets, including Earth. Basically what has happened is that Superman has been captured by Darkseid, and then had Granny Goodness use alien tech to convince Superman that his rocket was sent to Apokolips when he was a baby, not on Earth. He then grew up on Apokolips and became a general for his father. And although we're not given too many details, it's kind of obvious that when Superman conquered planets for Darkseid, he killed people, and quite possibly committed genocide. I mean, he was raised by a dictator in this version. Now, of course, most of this is just implanted memories to make Superman think this is the way the world is. But Superman still does conquer planets for Darkseid, or at the very least one planet that we see. This is probably because Darkseid wanted to make sure that the conditioning had fully taken hold before he sent Superman to conquer Earth. And after he is sent, Superman attacks Earth with full force and fury, not knowing that it's actually his true home. And as Superman is systematically destroying Earth's military bases, Lex Luthor teams up with the military and gives them a Kryptonite Missile, which they then use to take out both Superman and his cousin Supergirl. And the only good part of this is that the Kryptonite Missile seems to have been such a severe shock to Superman's system that he's able to break through Darkseid's conditioning and return to normal. Now, while he was unconscious, the military has of course locked him up, and both Superman and Supergirl are being kept under red sun lamps to nullify their powers. And then the general in charge is convinced by Lex Luthor that the only way forward is to kill them with some sort of special kryptonite poison. But luckily for Superman, Lois Lane has snuck into the base and saves both him and Supergirl. and the three of them then escape to the surface, although Supergirl is severely injured in the escape and in need of medical care. And while she gets that care, Superman decides to fly to Apokolips and beat the holy hell out of Darkseid. But even after he has beaten Darkseid, possibly worse than he's ever been beaten before, the people of his planet still love him, and they carry him away as a hero. But the people of Earth no longer trust Superman, and the powerful government and military agents will never forget what has happened. And even his close friend, the scientist Dr. Hamilton, turns against Superman, going to work for Cadmus as one of their chief scientists. He even stole Supergirl's DNA to clone a stronger version of her called Galatea, who they could use to take down Superman and the Justice League. So all in all, this ruins Superman's life in many ways, and it took a very long time before the common people would ever trust him again. And some of those people would never trust him again. The Black Mercy. Now, the Black Mercy is a plant that kills the person it's attached to. But while it kills them, it taps into their mind and puts them in a psychic projection, fulfilling their heart's deepest desire. And in Superman's case, his heart's desire is for Krypton to have never blown up and for him to have been raised by his biological parents on the planet, and then to grow up, get married, and have a son. Though of course the Black Mercy doesn't end up killing Superman, as Batman and Wonder Woman manage to get it off of him. Now you may wonder why I've put this one here as one of the worst things to happen to him when Superman is getting his heart's desire. But that's simple. Imagine being given everything you've ever wanted, only to immediately have it snatched away from you again. In fact, not immediately. You've got everything you wanted, you've had it for a few days and you're really happy there and content, and then it's all ripped away from you. I mean, that would hurt more than if you'd never had it in the first place, and it would leave a gaping wound in your heart that, quite frankly, would never heal. I know that sounds melodramatic, but seriously, it would be that bad. Imagine everyone you have ever loved being killed, because that's what's happening to Superman. Everyone he's ever loved is brought back to life, and he has years of real memories in his head of living with them. The Black Mercy goes that deep, and Superman thinks it's real, and then they are all killed again. He actually had to watch as his whole reality was breaking down. He has to watch as his son, who he has memories of raising and love him, is killed right in front of him. And then he not only has to deal with them all dying, but with accepting the fact that they never existed at all. I mean, I know it's not real, but again, to him, it is real. He feels as though he's lived it. It's as real to him as any other of his memories. Now, like I said, Superman's planet blowing up was the worst thing that ever happened to him. And the Black Mercy is basically making this happen all over again. Except this time, it's much, much worse. After all, when he was a baby, he didn't have any memories, he hadn't really lived, and he didn't really know what he was losing. But now he's an adult, and he has memories of living with all the people he loved, and he can truly feel and process everything that he has lost. Flashpoint. In this alternate version of DC's history, when Superman's rocket lands on Earth, instead of landing in Smallville, it instead lands in Metropolis, and his rocket lands like a meteorite strike. It destroys a good chunk of the city and quite a lot of the people. And afterwards, Superman is found by the government, and then of course they lock him up and experiment on him. After all, he's only a baby. They then work out that he needs sunlight to charge his powers, and then make sure that he never sees the sun. And so he spends his entire life locked in a prison cell deep underground, with pretty much no contact with anyone. Of course, he is eventually rescued by the Flash, Cyborg and Batman, but he has still spent his entire childhood, teenage years and adulthood in a prison cell being experimented on. I mean, that's going to screw anyone up. And he looks like he's being starved as well, although his physical state is nothing compared to his mental state. After all, he's never even had a proper conversation with a human being before, so he's going to have some serious social issues and a lot of mental issues. But even though he initially leaves the battle, because it's all just a bit too much for him, he does return to help the heroes. Even after spending his whole life in an underground prison with no interaction, he still doesn't give up on his hope. And it's his ability to do that, even more so than his powers, that makes him Superman. Injustice. Now this story is rather infamous at this point, being a video game, a comic and an animated movie, that was actually not bad, although really it should have been an animated series. But anyway, in this story, the Joker gets a hold of Scarecrow's fear toxin and combines it with kryptonite to make a gas that will work on Superman. And he uses it to convince Superman that he is fighting Doomsday, when in reality, it's his pregnant wife. And of course, he attacks Doomsday hard. I mean, the guy's practically invulnerable. He knows he's got to strike fast. So he flies him straight into orbit. But unfortunately, as the gas starts to wear off, he realises that he has just murdered his own wife and his unborn child. Now, he was drugged, of course, and had no idea what he's doing, so it's not his fault. But still, he has just lost the most important thing to him in the world. And he has to live with the memory of being the one who destroyed it. And so Superman kind of snaps and flies off to kill the Joker, and afterwards he decides to be harder on criminals in order to stop anything like this from ever happening again. And so essentially Superman ends up becoming a dictator, telling all the countries of the world what they can and can't do, and killing anyone who disagrees with him, and killing a load of kids because they're having a party with a Joker banner, and declaring war on Atlantis, and going to war with the Green Lanterns and joining the Sinestro Corps, and of course imprisoning all the heroes who disagree with his plans, and a lot of other very bad things, and a lot of other murders of his good friends. Basically, Superman has had the whole one bad day experience from the Killing Joke, and it has turned Superman into a supervillain. And he keeps going further and further down a path of increasingly bad and villainous decisions. So all in all, this is actually debatably the worst thing to ever happen to Superman since he's arrived on Earth. But really, this list is very subjective to each person. So I guess the question is, which one of these do you consider to be the worst? And are there any other bad things that have happened to Superman that you think should have been on this list? Be sure to let us know in the comments. And I'd just like to quickly remind everyone that we have some merchandise available on our store with newly reduced prices. And I'd like to say thank you to all of you who have donated to the Needle Mouse Productions page on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment.